Okay guys, we're going to go over the first part of the review. We're going to do atomic structure. Okay, as you can see, I've already filled out, but I'm going to talk through you with it. Okay, with you through it. All right. Remember, the most basic part of our atomic structure, we have 3 subatomic particles. We have the proton, which is inside the nucleus. It has a positive charge, and it has a mass of about 1 AMU, or 1 atomic mass unit. Okay. And then we have our neutron, which is also inside the nucleus of the atom. It has a neutral or no charge, and it has 1 AMU, 1 atomic mass unit as well. So remember, we've talked about this. Most of the mass of an atom is in our nucleus because of these 2 particles. All right. So if you ever have a question that's asking you, that gives you some diagrams, and it asks you to find who has the most mass or the least mass, you would go to that diagram, you would go to the nucleus, and you would count up your protons and your neutrons, and that's how you decide who had the most mass or the least amount of mass. Our third particle is the electron, and our electrons are in the electrons cloud outside of the nucleus, orbiting the nucleus. It has a negative charge, and it is extremely smaller than our proton and our neutron, excuse me. That is why we don't use it when we're looking at the mass, because it has, you can see how small it is compared to the proton and the neutron. All right, drawing atoms. First of all, they give you how many protons, neutrons, and electrons in this scenario, but let's talk about how we would find them if they don't give you the information. Okay, remember our protons is the same as the atomic number on our periodic table. So if we were going to, let's say, look at boron, okay, we would go and look, and we would see that boron has atomic number 5, which tells us that it has 5 protons. Okay. Our electrons in a neutral atom are going to equal our number of protons, so we're going to know that. Okay. And then our neutrons, remember our neutrons are equal to our atomic mass rounded minus our atomic number. So if we look at our periodic table and we go back to boron, okay, we can see that our atomic mass is 10.812, so we would take that and round it to the nearest whole number, which would be 11. And then we would subtract, my camera. Okay, then we would subtract our atomic number, so 11 minus 5 would give us 6 neutrons. Okay, so that is how we would find. Remember our acronym, 8-MAN. 8 stands for atomic number is equal to the protons and the electrons. Man is equal, or M is equal to our mass, our atomic mass. And our atomic mass is our atomic number, our protons plus our neutrons. Okay. Also remember ESPN. Okay. Our electrons are separate, and our proton are from our protons and our neutrons. So that might help you with location. These 2 are together in the nucleus, and the electrons are out by themselves. All right, so let's go to drawing our Bohr model. Hey, remember our magic number, 2, 8, 18, but we only draw 8. Okay. We have our protons, neutrons, and our electrons. Our protons are positive, so we're going to use a plus sign. We have our neutrons, which are neutral, so we're going to use a 0. And then we have electrons, which are negative, so we're going to use the negative sign. All right, so it tells us we have 4 protons, 4 electrons, and 5 neutrons. So we're going to draw our protons first. So we're going to put 4 protons out there in our nucleus. And then remember, our neutrons also go in our nucleus. So we're going to draw our 5 circles to represent our no charge neutrons. We have 4 electrons. Remember, only 2 can go on the first shell, so we're going to put our first 2 out there. We have 2 left over, and we're going to put those on the outer shell. Remember, Our valence electrons are these electrons on the outermost shell. Okay? Those valence electrons are what we use when we're talking about bonding, and they describe or they tell us how reactive an element is. Okay, so those valence electrons are the electrons on the outermost energy level. All right, so what if we give you some diagrams to look at and we want you to tell us who that is? Okay, remember the number one way to identify an atom is to look at the number of protons. Okay, because remember our protons are our atomic number. So anytime it's asking you to identify an atom, you need to go to that model and count up how many protons are there and use that as your atomic number, go to your periodic table and find it. So if they had just given me this diagram right here, I would go and say 1, 2, 3, 4 protons, so my atomic number is 4. I would go to my periodic table, atomic number 4, that's beryllium. All right, down here, okay, I'm just going to explain it. Okay, remember for mass, we go and we count up the nucleus, so obviously B has the most mass because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 protons and neutrons. So we're going to have the most mass out of everybody. Neutral charge. Remember, in order to find out if an atom is neutral or not, we have to look at how many protons and electrons we have. Remember, protons should be equal to electrons if we're neutral, because protons are positive and electrons are negative. For every positive, we can cancel out a negative. So if they're equal to each other, they're canceling each other out, and we're going to have a zero or neutral charge. So A and C represent that because we have 1 proton, 1 electron, 1 proton, 1 electron. Positive charge. If we have more protons than we have of electrons, we're going to have a positive charge. Remember, that's also called an ion. This is an ion as well. Okay. So here, B, we have 1, 2, 3 protons and 2 electrons. So we're going to have a positive charge. In D, we have 2 protons and 1 electron. So we're going to have a positive charge. Obviously, if all of our letters are already taken, we don't have anything that has a negative charge. If we had a negative charge, we would have more electrons than protons. All right, guys, remember that is the first part of your review. Please make sure that you go over in detail. Make sure you know how to identify an atom. Make sure you know your 3 particles, where they are at, what their charges are. Make sure you know how to find how many of each of those particles by using the periodic table. Okay? And remember how to figure out if an atom is neutral or not. Those are the main points of atomic structure.